Hello everyone, it's DuckFaden07. Today we are playing the Zul style Soulflayer Brew. So I'm really excited about this one. It feels like really well positioned right now. Soulflayer with the hexproof, haste, flying, double strike, whatever you can get all the abilities in this deck. And it's just doing so well, but it's not just a Soulflayer, it's also the Beanstalk card, this new card that works so well in a lot of builds, but it works incredibly well in this one because we have so many things we can cast into the Beanstalk to get a draw. We have Scion, we have Binding, we have Fury Pitchcast, we have Soulflayer which we can cast for 2 black mana. We can also sometimes hardcast the Oliphaunt, and of course even the Riverwinder, but that's really rare. Okay, so other than that, we have some here in 3 and 4 mana. We have creatures that have great keywords, which are really good with the Soulflayer, and especially flying and haste on Mantis Rider. But because Mantis Rider is a bit harder on the mana base than Samut, and also a bit weaker into the Blood Moon, I decided to play the split of 2-2 between Samut and Mighty Strider, and I'm very happy with this. Also, I've been trying both Questing Beast and the 5 mana Samut. 5 mana Samut has double strike, haste, vigilance, all really good abilities. But Questing Beast is a bit better against all those 4-color Omnat ring decks, and it prevents the damage, so you can sometimes surprise your opponents with the Questing Beast. That's why I like it. Also, haste, vigilance, dead touch, it is all relevant abilities to get with the Soulflayer. So that is it. I started off the brew with some discard effects, so I can put those cards into the graveyard, but I really didn't need them. I really prefer playing the creatures with the keyword abilities, which can be like actually cast and played, and not creatures that I have to play some enablers to put it into the graveyard, because there are no good enablers for the Soulflayer deck in this zoo type of build. There are definitely some enablers, but they are all bad, and once you put them into your deck, the deck becomes much worse, in my experience at least. So this is it. This is my final build. Strip River Winder has done tremendous job, has been very important, and the Territorial Kavu is your only discard outlet, which can put these guys into the graveyard. But it's, as I said, it's just not that necessary. You often play the Scion on turn 2, Mantis Rider, Samut on turn 3. They just die to the bolt, and you're not that sorry when they die because you know you're going to use it with a Soulflayer, and you really like having them into your graveyard the same way as you like having them on the field. So, but what is important that we have ability to put some creatures into the graveyard for Soulflayer without needing some great enablers doing that for us in the deck, and that's why we have the Riverwinder, which cycles for 1 mana and gets hexproof. We have Oliphaunt, which gets us trample, and we can cycle it for mountain. And we have Fury, which you can pitch cast and just for 0 mana put into the graveyard. And the double strike is very important ability for the Soulflayer, especially if you can mix that up with haste. That can be often very good. Some removals, of course. We have a lot of card draw in this deck with the Beanstalk, and so many payoffs for the Beanstalk. As I already said, everything you play in this deck draws you a card, and you just have to decide and learn when you go for the Beanstalk, when you start with the Kavu. You will often, when you need to be aggressive, you will often play turn 2 Kavu or turn 2 Scion. And in the grinding matchups, you will just start off with the Beanstalk and then play the Scion turn after to get the maximum value. But you kind of need to learn these things, when to do one and when to do another. So on the sideboard, Murderous Cut, another Beanstalk payoff, which draws us a card. I usually board this in instead of 2 Furies when Furies are not that great, but of course, depending on the matchup. Some graveyard hate, a lot of artifact enchantment hate and blood moon hate, and 4 stubborn denials that takes care of most of our non-creature dependent matchups. Yeah, so we are trying to be really fast, grind out opponent with Beanstalk, or do we have to choose one or another. Sometimes we have to take out Beanstalks post board in some matchups, but we'll see about that. So let's go to the league, and I had a 5-0 league with this deck, almost a perfect league, lost just a single match, and this was my first match I played this morning, and I played it so badly, it was embarrassing. I'm not even going to show it. Okay, so starting with fetch here in game 1, seeing what my opponent will play, and yes, since they have the young wolf, there's just I just wanted to start with the cow because cow gets me the ability drawing and discarding. So I wanted now after going with Kau, I played my Beanstalk and pitchcast the Fury, killing all of their creatures. Their young wolves, of course, returned with the Undying. Now I went for a second Beanstalk and cast my 4/4 Soulflayer. Sorry, I went for attack first, so I put the Scion into the graveyard. And now my Soulflayer also has flying and double strike, which is insane. This means they have to do something very good right now or they die. They do get the Yagmoth, which is definitely pretty good, but to be able to kill my creatures, they have to go really low on life. And now I just finished them off with lightning bolt, but I wanted to do it cool way because they can't just prevent dying from the Mantis Rider, and that's it. So okay, that is the win in game 1 against Yagmoth. Let's check out the game 2. So you can actually be aggressive and draw cards at the same time in a lot of situations. So a lot of situations when you need to play the Kavu on turn 2, try to be aggressive, you will do this. And then you can play the Beanstalk turn after and just play a removal or pitch cast a Fury. These kind of plays are also pretty aggressive. Okay, so going for the Kavu again. Opponent plays a double wall, they have the Young Wolf. They decide not to block there. I just play another Kavu and hold the Leyline Binding. Opponent goes for Endurance end of turn. Then on their turn they play the Yagmoth. I have 2 Kavus on the field, but yeah, there is a lot can happen in a situation like this. So they sack the Young Wolf, and in response to the Young Wolf sack, while the Young Wolf is in the graveyard, I target Yagmoth. So this way they can't like get the Young Wolf back infinite times to draw a bunch of cards. And now I can just go bolt to the Young Wolf, binding the Endurance, and attack my opponent, putting them on 1 life, and they concede, so they can't recover from that. So that is the game. And match 1. Let's go to the match 2. Okay, so playing first, keeping pretty good hand. This was actually my first league with a deck I ever played. So I just with this exact list, I played this deck with a different list before. Then I taught some lessons, and then okay. So I'm not sure what even happened here, but I casted my Soul 2/2 Soulflayer with hexproof and flying, and immediately when I did this, opponent concedes the game. That was it. So I guess the flying hexproof is just too much for some decks. Okay, so let's check out the next game. Opponent now starts first with Ragavan. I assumed, It was the Jund Saga. Opponent plays, gets the treasure token, plays the Goyf. Here you can see how I sideboarded. So some definitely brought in artifact enchantment removal. And also the endurance. So a lot of cards, 9 cards post board. So now I play the Beanstalk and hold the Leyline Binding. Opponent goes for the Construct token. I decide immediately go for the Binding, remove the Construct token, and have the Territorial Kavu in block. Since they didn't kill it last turn, I doubt they can kill it this turn. So they go for the Vren 6 and gets the Saga back. That is really a good play for them. I had Endurance in hand. I could go for a pitch cast Endurance, prevent them from getting the Saga, but I was on. I pressed the F6, so I passed the turn. Opponent, I had the Endurance in this situation, so I decided to go for the blocks, try to trick the opponent, and made their Goyf 3-4 in response, but they had the Unholy Heat. But that is fine. So they used the card to kill my Soulflayer, which is okay. And here I went for Scion plus Mantis Rider, attack them for 8 damage. And this means if I have trample, my opponent is on 7. This means next turn I have lethal combo damage in the air with the Scion and the Mantis. I also have endurance plus bolt, and that's it. The opponent concedes very quick games 1 and 2. Let's check out match 3. Pretty hard beating in both matches. Okay, so another decent hand. I have 2 Beanstalks. Not I can't play the Scion on 2 anyway. So my definite plan right now is just to go for the Beanstalk on turn 2, especially since my opponent is a Beanstalk deck. I definitely want to try just outvalue them with my Beanstalks. So I just play my second Beanstalk and go fetch the full domain on the next turn. And my definite plan with this deck is to put Riverwinder into the graveyard and play the Soulflayer and make a Soulflayer with a hexproof, which is very hard for them to deal with. And I played a wrong land here. This was a mistake actually. So I played a fetch. I wanted to get a black source, but I forgot that my Blood Crypt is my hand, and my only black source is Overgrown Tomb. So I wasn't able to get it. That meant I have to change my plan. So I went for the Scion instead, and I also tapped my 2 green sources. So I wasn't even able to cast the Territorial Kavu, and even I wasn't even able to cast the Beanstalk. So it was a big fail, but ended up not mattering. And I also, because of that fail, I was able to discard the Mantis Rider, and now I had this flying vigilance haste into the graveyard for my Soulflayer, which was very convenient. Opponent plays the One Ring. Unfortunately, this means I can't go for the Soulflayer this turn, but it is definitely a very good play and very hard for my opponent to deal with this. So I go for it. Exile Mantis, exile Riverwinder, exile exile Fury. So this guy has double strike, flying, haste, hexproof, vigilance, And I also play the Territorial Kavu and hold the Leyline Binding with 2 beans to get their ring. They try to draw, I go for the binding in response, preventing them from drawing. Drawing 2 cards myself, exiling the ring. And yeah, so pretty in a really good situation. They can't handle this Soulflayer guy with the hexproof and so much abilities. This is like unstoppable turn 2 clock. They just can't do anything about this. They can only gain life, but they can't gain enough life to beat this guy. Because I also have the Beanstalks, gaining, drawing a bunch of cards, dealing with their stuff. So I go for the attacks here. Opponent exiles the Scion, so they remove the lifelink at least from my creature, but I have a bunch of my stuff and clear their entire board. And yes, just discard some cards end of turn and have a hand full of really good cards. Also Samut now in the graveyard with another Riverwinder. This means another haster guy with a hexproof. And already this one was too much for them to deal with. Opponent goes like bounce the Omnat, draw some cards with the Beanstalk, stuff I don't really care about. So at this point, of course, because I have too much going on, I have a definite kill for the next turn. So I go for the Scion to draw more cards, get also the lifelink on my guy. Cast the Fury, kill their Shaman and the Fairy. I have Bolt in my hand and I have a Soulflayer with a haste to try to finish them immediately. Opponent again goes for the Solitude, exiling my Scion. This is fine. So I go for I have the Fury now also in the side, which means exile Samut, exile Scion, Riverwinder, and the Fury, and get another double strike haste hexproof guy. And when I cast this, opponent concedes. I also had exactly lethal with the bolt. And yeah, so that was it. Okay, let's check out the game 2 against 4-color Omnats. I'm really glad like how well this deck performs against these 4-color Omnat piles in multiple games I played so far. Okay, so let's check out my sideboarding plan. This sideboard is really important because this is one of the most often matchups at the moment. 2 Furies out for 2 Murderous Cut, as I already mentioned before. That is something I often do. Bolts are terrible against the 4-color Omnat piles. Basically, it doesn't kill anything. It can only go face, which is sometimes fine, but mostly not needed. So, as I already said in the beginning, you have to choose, are you going to be aggressive? Or are you going to just go try to outvalue your opponent? And you have to look at your hand and see what your hand is doing and what you're really able to do. So at this point, I had like Boseiju to kill my opponent's Beanstalk. I had my own Beanstalk and a bunch of these 5 mana cards. So uh, I decided my hand is much stronger than the opponent's hand, and I'm just going to go for outvalue plan, and it worked very well. Opponent had some good stuff too. They find a Boseiju of their own, so I had to exile this friend to prevent them from getting back that Boseiju. That was really important. And now I cast Soulflayer, and as we already established, they have really hard time dealing with this guy. This time he doesn't have a haste, but has a double strike and hexproof, and those 2 abilities have been the most relevant. Also, when I play the Scion, this guy also gets the lifelink, which is very important against a burn, for example, and a lot of other matchups. But yeah, so right now I have everything. My opponent is on 2 cards in hand. They have Omnat, but all my cards are just doing much better than theirs. I also get redraw from Omnat. Double strike, hexproof, lifelink guy attacking here. Have a lot of damage on the field. Opponent tries to cast another Omnat, and they concede the game. That's it. So Very quick games against Omnat, just destroying them with the Soulflayers. And yeah, so these were the games I played the day before. And sorry, I said I played so badly this game. It's so embarrassing. I'm not even going to show it. I just made like 7 misplays in a row, and that was the only match I lost. And we are just going to skip that one. Okay, so I started first here. This was a mill matchup. Um I played second. I played lost the first game and played first in this game too. And you can see here how I sideboarded. So Beanstalk's out. I need to be aggressive in this matchup. This is a race, so I really don't want to spend my turns drawing a card. So this is a perfect example when the Beanstalk goes out. And since they are putting cards into your graveyard, you don't need that much of these keyword guys. So I put out the slowest one, the 4 mana one, the beast, also one river winder and the fury. Okay, that's it. So I went for the Samut here. They push the Samut. I continue attacking with Scion. I have a pretty good clock here. End of turn, I cycle the Riverwinder, continue attacking with Scion. They're obviously having trouble getting rid of this guy. It's really not easy for them to get rid of it. Their only solution is Drowning Loch. Unfortunately, they had a Crypt Incursion here, but it was fine. I still had good cards, good clock on the field. They only were on 2 cards right now. So, I mean, they had a Crypt Incursion to gain 1 life, but it only prolonged them dying for a couple of turns. So, I hardcasted my Fury and present the lethal damage again for the next turn. Opponent trying to survive. I have too much cards at this point. So I already also had endurance, but really there's no point in playing it. But I have just 3 cards in my graveyard, and opponent didn't find a solution for Scion, and they concede. That's it. Okay, so let's check out game 2 or game 3 because same sideboard, no changes on the draw. I really like Soulflayer. This was the day after, so I was fully concentrated in the first 3 matches, and I was just playing so badly these other 2. I made this was in the morning, and I just made so much of bad decisions with fetching especially. So I did bad fetching last turn, so I wasn't even able to do what I wanted here. So I had to change my game plan a bit. My forest was in the graveyard, and this meant that I can get a land from their Field of Ruin. Luckily, they didn't have more of those. So now I was able to play the Soulflayer. Unfortunately, I didn't cycle the Riverwinder, so it didn't have the hexproof. So this meant that they were able to play the Sanity and drown and lock my Soulflayer. Go for another one. This one had the hexproof, which was much better. I also had endurance right now, which was definitely what I wanted. So after their fracture sanity, I hardcasted the endurance, put all my cards back into the library. Now they go for a double Hedron Crab, but this doesn't matter anymore. I'm just 2 far ahead. It's really hard for me to not win this at this point. So I'm holding a double Stubborn Denial. Maybe I should have let them kill my Kavu and prolong the game for another turn. But yeah, so I did counter the push, and that was the game. They didn't have solutions, and that's it. Okay, so let's now check out the last match for the trophy, which I also won 2-0. I also played terribly in this game. So first 3 matches I played the day before and played them pretty fine. Uh, but in this morning when I played these two games, I did everything wrong, especially the fetching. It was terrible, and I misclicked here on the Temple Garden, and I was just so annoyed by this misclick because one small misclick like this one changes my entire game to the in a lot worse situation. So I should be able now to play the Beanstalk and hold the binding, but instead I can't do this. I can't play the binding, so if they have a Scam Grief, they can take both of my bindings, which is pretty bad. Opponent goes for a Fable, and yeah, so I went for the Zagoth Triome, but already I messed up a lot. Now I went for the basic, in case they go for Blood Moon. So I take their Fable, and cycle the Riverwinder, and that's it. So pretty good situation for me. Opponent now has the Totsis and gets rid of my Leyline Binding. And because of my bad fetching at the beginning of the game, I wasn't able to hold Leyline Binding right now. So all of this really matters. So I go for a Scion of Draco, and since I had made all those mistakes, I had to have a bit of luck here to draw into the Fury. But Fury, I find Fury with the Scion, and now I'm able to kill their Fury. And now I'm stabilized on 6 life, having a blocker for their Goblin Shaman. When I untap, I have so much stuff I can do. And yeah, so they play the Grief, exile another binding, but top deck Soulflayer, and yeah, now this guy has double strike, also first strike, haste, hexproof, lifelink, and yes, so blowout with the Soulflayer, and also he drew me a card and immediately gained me like 8 life. So such a sweet creature. And yeah, so the won me game 1. Let's check out the game 2 against Scam. Such a sweet creature, so well positioned right now. When you succeed to resolve this guy with hexproof and double strike, it is so hard for any deck to deal with it. Okay, so opponent unexpectedly doesn't do anything on their first 2 turns. This means like they're probably preparing for Blood Moon. Blood Moon, this is usually what happens. So I really wanted to prioritize fetching the Territorial Forest, sorry, for to be able to play around Blood Moon. I also had my Tira Sanders in, and Bosages, and yeah, as expected. So this just happens so often. I draw top deck the tier asunder, but even if I didn't, I immediately knew from the beginning what was going to happen, because when they don't play anything on a turn 2, they don't play anything on a turn 1 and turn 2. This means like they needed to have some reason to keep that kind of hand, and the only obvious reason at that point can be they have a Blood Moon. So you can in most situations you can just try to play around it. Okay, they have the push here for my Kavu, so I play another one in such a good position right now. With the Kavu and the Scion on the field, they play Blood Moon explosives on 2, but I have so much power on the field. Samut with a haste, trample, first strike, vigilance, drawing me cards, drawing me another Fury. And yeah, okay, so I just need another, I don't even care about the moon. I just need another land to start hardcasting my Furies, and that's definitely can win me the game easily. In response to the grief, I exile the moon. They have to take care of the cut first, and then discard one of my Furies. And so even if I don't top deck a land, I'm still pretty well positioned. I have 2 Furies in hand, they have 0 cards, so I did top deck a land immediately, go for a hardcast Fury, kill Grief, attack with Samut, put them on 1 life, and there is no way they can survive uh, in this position. So opponent concedes. That's it. That is the entire league. It has been a huge fun and pleasure to play this deck. I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorites in this edition. My favorite brew so far. I didn't enjoy any Beanstalk brew this much as this one. Soulflayer overperformed, as you could also see in most of the matches. I'm really happy with it. Really happy with all. I didn't. I think I didn't cast Questing Beast almost once this entire league. But it is good against Yagmoth, and creativity. It's great against creativity. None of their creatures can actually block it. It's also relevant sometimes because of the enables the stubborn denial post board. None of Yagmoth's creature can also block it, and you can just kill the Grist with it. So they are also killing the Fairy can be relevant, or Wren. There's definitely some situations where this card is very good, especially against the One Ring, when they jam a ring and think they're safe for a turn. But what we really want this card for is the keywords. So the idea is to just hard cast this, or eventually discard it with Kavu. So the Soulflayer gets the haste, vigilance, two very relevant abilities. And that's it. Okay, so hope you liked the gameplay. I really enjoyed it. Hope you liked the video. Friendly reminder to click like, click subscribe. It really helps the channel. Comment in the video. I'm really advising all of the zoo lovers, the players who enjoy this kind of gameplay, to go and play this deck. And it's really fun and it's really well positioned. I have my total score with this league, with this deck was 13-2. I did well against all good decks in the meta right now, and I'm still not sure what are exactly like really bad matchups, what are um, what are what the deck is going to struggle with. But so far, I didn't encounter any like really bad ones, and maybe some combo decks because we only have 4 stubborn denials for that. But we can also be very fast, so we can also sometimes just kill them before their combo with this our Soulflayer combo or something like that. This deck can easily win on turn 4 if you're playing first, and that can be sometimes enough with a few interaction like binding and stuff like that. So that's it. Again, thank you for watching, and that's it for today. Goodbye.